Phireon, the choice is yours. First meeting, November 15th, 2020. I pledge my mind to the respectful recognition of the sovereign liberty essential to human dignity. I pledge my hands to the creation and maintenance of communal, cultural, and ecological prosperity. I pledge my eyes to watch over the integrity of truth and justice with acceptance of the natural balance of diversity and equality. I pledge my heart to the connection that binds us all throughout creation, and I pledge my whole being with humility and love to the grateful service of all humankind, and will duly act in accordance to the principles derived from such. Sweet.
That's powerful.
It is. It's really good. I want to thank Micah for starting that, and then I think it was Sal. Was that his name? Simon, I think it was, who wrote that. So thank you, Simon. I appreciate that. So to go over the agenda, I'll give you the date today is Sunday, November 15th, 2020. It's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the world we live in currently, and this is for the humans of the future, hopefully hundreds of years from now, who watch this to wonder how this all started. In the United States, there is a large coup going on to try to steal the election, gaslighting of billions of people around the planet about a virus which has a 99.998 survival rating for anybody under 50, and a real push to sort of encapsulate the world and enslave the world in fear and in what is clear some kind of agenda for how the world should be run. And the group here is the first in folks that are joining the Phireon movement and the organization and cooperative that we're building in order to create a fair and just society built around a central banking system that's actually decentralized, with everybody's choices and views taken into account, so that we can transact, harvest the transaction fees, and decide together how we're going to spend that. And the idea here is that with everybody's voice and participation, owning something like a Federal Reserve together, that we have accountability to how the world unfolds, and what we get to take ownership of Spaceship Earth and have a say in how it's developed. And the ultimate vision here is that we build a global membership cooperative that allows us to transact in the ways that we do, communicate with one another, share ideas freely without censorship, because right now all of the big tech monopolies are removing anybody that's speaking the truth or even outside the narrative of what the, let's say, controllers want to have as the field of understanding of humanity. And we're saying we are divine and sovereign beings, and we want a destiny that is self-determined. And we're figuring out a way to do that cooperatively and in a way where we can all take part in and own that. And it's based around economics. So with that, I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves. I'm going to go ahead and start and kind of give you like a template. My name is Xavier Hawk. You're free to share your full name or just your first name if that's what you're comfortable with. And I'm here because I have had a vision of what the world can be, and it's currently going in a direction that is the exact opposite of that. And I want to see a world where there's a future for my children and their children's children and their children's children, 7 generations down, that's in ecological harmony, balance with one another, where you come to the planet as a soul incarnate, and you're welcomed and given an opportunity to make your way in the world with cohorts and people who all share similar values. That's balance, health, well-being, a striving and education towards unity and soul consciousness. And I believe that setting it up as a cooperative banking system is the way that we can do that. So that's me. And if everybody's comfortable, we'll just go down my list here, which would put Brian next. Brian, if you'd like to introduce yourself and why you're here, and what you're excited about this.
Fair enough. Well, my name is Brian Aguilar. I'm here because, well, I guess I've been striving towards freedom since 2012, and this year was the point, I guess, for that, as far as, trying to find a better system. And I've heard a few of your interviews, and I'm excited to learn more, honestly.
Well, thank you. Glad to have you. I'm going to go down next to Andre.
Yes, hello, thank you. So I'm here. I've been involved with sort of agorist philosophy, I guess you could say, or trying to free myself, my lifestyle for about 15 years. It's not going too well with the current situation I have. Looking to get out of the statist hell known as Illinois right now. And I'm close to that. But really, I just wanted to network with like-minded people. I feel like sort of I'm in an intellectual desert at times, and it's just really nice to meet people that have different philosophy, or we might not agree on everything, but certainly I think there's similarities. And I agree with all the principles of just trying to work outside of the current system somehow, whether it's through banking, the way we transact, or the way we acquire property, or the way we do business with one another. So I'm interested in all of those concepts.
Awesome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We'll go next to Dan Schmidt.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name's Dan Schmidt, and I've been passionate about sustainability for all my life. I think what really opened my eyes to things was when I was young. I read this book, Ishmael, that focused on the effect that the agricultural revolution had on society and development of civilization. And so I thought that a new agricultural revolution was a part of the transition towards having a sustainable civilization. And but then, I wasn't sure what that really looked like when I was young, and I found my way into the solar industry instead. And I've been real passionate about how we will attain that 100% renewables grid mix, and the decentralized electrical infrastructure that we need to build. It seems to go hand in hand with the decentralized internet infrastructure, and just the general movement of society. We grew up in our circle talking about how empowering it was that the internet can let everyone have a voice and learn from each other in a way that with books wasn't always possible. And so Phireon seems to have going straight to having a direct say in how we invest in projects and communities, and it is the template for what that next level in governance is. So I see a lot of potential in all this.
Great. Thank you so much, Dan. Thanks for being here. Next, we'll go to John.
Hi, this is John.
Hi, John.
Hey, I'm excited about being a part of something that has such potential to promote liberty and harmony among the peoples of the earth. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be a part of that.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. Great and straight to the point. Appreciate it. Next, we'll go to Gabriel.
Hey, everybody.
Nice beard, dude.
Dude, thank you. Yeah. Dude, so excited with your interview with David. And I watched it 4 a.m. And right around that time in the morning, that's just special.
Yeah.
It's what I needed. And thank you for your work. But I'm here. I'm a builder. I'm a community starter. I want to get on the land and farm and build and create. So that's sort of my strength. And I'm a healer. Do a lot of massage and Reiki and stuff like that. So.
Sweet. And what about Phireon makes you excited?
I like Phireon because I just vibe with what you said at the interview, and mainly because I don't really understand. I want to get to know more about the blockchain and how it all works, so I can explain it to people and more just get a download. And
Heck yeah. Where are you located?
In Virginia.
Oh, very cool. So I have land up in North Carolina that I'd like to turn into the first Phiron hub. And we have people who are actually interested in putting money together and make it sort of like a retreat in case things really get dicey.
Yeah.
And we could build it out and there's a lot of stuff that we can do there. Cool.
Awesome.
Well,
That's very exciting.
Yeah, good to have you aboard, Gabriel. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go to Jose.
The name is Jose Walter. Well, I was really, I jumped into the David interview with you, and he was really excited all the aspect of being you touched in that interview.
Thank you.
And the thing what it really is happening is because I think through all the pandemic or the pandemic, what it's all about, I think was a little more starting to be more awake. The situation, what's going on globally. I have a small group of meditation that we get together every day at 8 o'clock in the evening. And they do their own thing. We just have to sync at the same time to meditate to get more energy going on. And with your interview, I think was like the key factor how I need to get involved in more how to build a community, how to be able to get more away from the matrix. What it's all because it's crazy. Like we have all this technology and we're all still enslaved, for all these things. So that's what I'm really interested in getting involved in your project.
That's amazing. Thanks, Walter. You brought up a really good point, and I think after we do the introductions, I'll kind of explain why Phireon will be able to help us get out of that and kind of what's going on. So thank you for your involvement, for being here. Appreciate you.
Okay, you're welcome, Dave.
And next is Kai.
Hey guys, I'm Kai from Switzerland, currently 27 years old, father of nearly 2 kids.
Wow.
My wife is pregnant at the moment. So I'm working at a corporate job at the moment as a project manager in the IT sector. And I have to say it's very unfulfilling, as you might recall. It's, I have to do it because you need to get the money somewhere. But we're working on getting out of Switzerland, moving to Sweden, basically for the same reason, I guess, Phireon exists, to be more sustainable, to have a free life, to have like community education, build a community around the sustainable living and everything. And I heard the interview as well with David. It sounded very intriguing, the idea. So that's why I joined.
That's awesome, Kai. Thanks. I'm actually part Swiss, and
Cool.
I spoke in the World Economic Forum in Davos, and when I went there, it felt like going home somehow. Got a lot of really great stories. Maybe you and I can talk about Switzerland in a little bit. But interestingly enough, Rudolf Steiner he created anthroposophy, which is the philosophy of freedom, and it's based there in Switzerland.
Yes, correct.
And my kids go to Waldorf, so that's
cool.
We've got a lot we can discuss there.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here, Kai. I appreciate you.
Thanks as well.
Next up, we have Letty.
I'm one of the 2 people that does the show notes for Unloose the Goose. So
yay! God bless you. Thank you.
So you kept mentioning Phireon. So one day I'm like, okay, I have to do some homework into this, and I looked it up, and then I listened to your interview with Nicole, and I mean, just the fact that it's more along the lines of what my husband and I are thinking, like being a little bit more free and not so like focused on having everything taken care of us by the man and everything, it's really kind of like more the life that we would prefer to lead versus what we're doing right now. And Andre, I hear you about getting out of Illinois. It's a bit of a mess here.
You used to live here, right?
Yep.
I think I talked to you before. You came back for a little while and you were disappointed again, right?
Always have been and always will.
Yeah.
So we have one more person to do the introductions, and then I think Letty, are you complete? Is there anything you want to say more?
I'm good. I'm done.
All right. So the next person is Nat Rich.
Hi guys, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm in the UK. I don't know if there's anybody else from here, but it's just me representing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw your interview. I thought it was amazing, and that's why I reached out to you for an interview on my radio station as well. But I'm really interested in the project. I've studied sustainable business management at Cambridge. looked into blockchain strategies, followed quite a few of the things that Brock originally started some time ago, and a few of the other guys. Lived in Ibiza, learned all about crypto, and I just think that I don't think the system's completely broken. I just think it's not designed for all to thrive. And if it was tweaked and it was designed in a slightly different way, I think we could all thrive within it. So I don't think we need to lose everything. I think we need to govern ourselves in a different way, but that's obviously learning natural law, the rights of mankind, and common law, which is what I'm studying, and putting it all together and making it easy for all to understand is my aim of my game.
That's brilliant. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. So a couple of things came up in everybody's introductions that one is that I did an interview with Nicole Sauce from Unloose the Goose. I do a podcast every Wednesday with a really great group of podcasters all around agorism, which is how do we live without the influence of the state. It's a really fun podcast. If you guys haven't heard it, you should check it out. But I did a private interview with Nicole for her podcast, and we went into some of the details and in-depth how-to of why Phireon exists and what it'll function like and how people will get involved and whatever. And so I'll post that link up in the Telegram at some point, and you guys can check that out. Both the Unloose the Goose and that the audio podcast I did with her about the how and why of Phireon. In fact, I'm hoping to post all of those things up on the Phireon.com website at some point in the near future here. So hearing everybody's introductions, one of the things that struck me is everybody wants to live more free. They want to live sort of like without the, I want to say, tyranny light of having their life force harvested and being put, their energy, we work, we put our calories, our passion, our hours, and we get little packets of information, dollars or euros or whatever they're called, and we spend those, and we have to get taxed by the governments that we live under, and then we also get taxed again every time we spend money in sales tax, and then also transactional fees. So our life, like, we're here, we have to work, we have to do things, produce, and in doing so, we spend our money in different ways, and it's taken essentially and harvested like the energetic harvesting of our life force, and turned into packets and then put towards things that we wouldn't necessarily choose if we understood the complexity of the system that we were in, that we found ourselves in. So Phireon is designed to A, educate people of that system and what they're actually involved in, and B, give them the power back to be harvested themselves. So Phireon, the corporation, it's a cooperative membership corporation where to be involved and to use a Phireon card or Earth credits or vote or get paid in Earth credits and help build the system, you have to become a member owner. In the United States, there's a company called REI, which is an outdoor gear company, and you have to become a cooperative member to shop there technically. Same with like Costco and stuff. It's like basically a buyer's club membership. But we transact on your behalf, like Visa or MasterCard. So you get a Phireon card, you spend it wherever you would normally. You get discounts if you spend it in network to vendors who become part of the membership cooperative. And then the transaction fees are harvested. We take them for processing your transaction. And then a percentage of that is kept in a pool where each of you get to choose how that gets spent. Meaning, people would put Kickstarter style, once you're a member and you become an associate or you get further training like a Kajabi style video series, you eventually, it's like a corporate track that you can take, and then you can produce or put forth propositions saying, I think we should open up a community garden in Des Moines, or we should open up a school in Bangalore, or whatever it might be. And you kind of put a video together and say, this is why we think it should happen. A little business proposal and plan. This is our team. This is what they are going to do. How much money we think will make Phireon as a whole, and how much we think this will value the community. So what it is essentially a structure whereby we can harvest our own transaction fees, build up a pool, and collectively decide how we want to execute on that, what we want to do with that money. Do we want to, build a space colony on Mars or whatever it might be? Do we want to buy currencies, commodities, land, and other things to back our Earth credits with so that they have tangible, real value? Do we want to pour a percentage of that towards a universal basic income for the members who are in India? So it really gives us an opportunity to decide together with our own life force, collectively, in a value system that is not based on a nation, but rather sovereign values like the pledge that we recited in the beginning, like health and balance, or health and well-being, balance, the ending of proliferation and profiteering of war. So it's a complex system, but it's really basic in its primary value, which is we harvest our own transaction fees and we deploy it together how we decide together. So that's my little Phireon pitch there. And where we're at right now is I've got a Reg D contract for an offering which goes towards registered and accredited investors, and they're the only ones who can invest. And in 2013, when I started this, or the primary idea of it, we were just going to launch and sell coins to the public. But the people who have done that, they've had a lot of trouble with the SEC. People have been arrested. I mean, things have not gone well, other than for companies who had a lot of capital to start with, like Ethereum and stuff, which is ironic because they're really providing zero value to the marketplace in terms of functional contracts and actual, structure essentially for this new world that we want to build. And they made $60 million or something in their launch, and I was there in Switzerland with them when they did the launch and all of this. So we didn't raise then because I wanted to make sure that we could launch to the public, just anybody, not just accredited investors, because there's a whole system for accredited investors and vulture capitalism that really ends up becoming a hindrance to the whole mission, as it were. But recently, the SEC in the United States just raised their limits from 1 million to 5 million, and we only need 2.5 to $3 million to pull this off properly. So I was going to do this whole online, raise, and it would be like, oh, you can kind of hide your IP address and everything, but I'd rather just do it cleanly, legally, and in a regulatory framework that is proper. And that's why we didn't launch in 2014. It was because I didn't feel comfortable doing it as a pirate, so to speak. Because if it's going to last and be something that lasts into many hundreds of years, I want it to be grounded in integrity and grounded in legality and make sure that it's done properly. So now the entire system is actually set up perfectly for us. We've got Facebook and Twitter and all of the YouTube censorship that's going on, and people are tired of that. We're seeing MeWe and Parler blowing up. We have a regulatory environment with the SEC now where we can raise the money that we need publicly, and we've got everybody freaking out about a virus that is totally just like, I got it, and it was like being in bed for 4 days. It's not a big deal. Did you get it too, Kai? Yeah. So everybody's afraid, and they don't need to be, and we need a place that we can speak freely without being afraid of censorship, where we can post information, learn, transact together, and actually build something as a people. Because so long as we're separated as little individuals, locked up in our different nations, and this huge monstrosity of a global new world order is coming towards us, we need to be able to step up and actually organize and do something where we decide our future and our destiny. That's the end of my spiel. I'm open to ideas, I'm open to questions, I'm open to next steps or ways that we can help structure this. I'd like to open up the floor. Yeah, so Andre.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so can you just explain in a little more detail how the scheme with the transaction fees work? Like, where are we collectively buying through Phireon, and then those fees are harvested through a crypto transaction, or what are the mechanics of that?
Okay, so just to be clear right now, it looks like I've got a 10-minute warning. So if it cuts out, I'll just start another one, okay? But to answer that question, it's like buying a gift card at Starbucks or something, or Disney dollars when you go to Disney World, right? You can get those cute little Disney dollars that has Mickey Mouse instead of George Washington, whatever. So you can buy those dollars and then you can spend them at any of the stores inside Disneyland like it would be regular cash, because you're essentially just buying into their closed garden essentially of vendors. So it's the same way here. If you purchase, like, let's say $100 worth of Earth credits, you can spend those as $100 anywhere, like a prepaid card, right? And you tap that up, and you can then use, like, you can use that anywhere in the vendor network, but then you can also use it outside the vendor network for a higher transaction fee. Those transaction fees, it's just like Visa or MasterCard charging the vendor 3.75%. Instead of the vendor getting charged 3.75%, Phireon remits a percent to them, so they're actually paying lower fees, so they'll want to join the system, right? And then the other 3.75, I'm sorry, the other 2.75 gets put into a pool. We have to take a percentage to pay whoever the investor group is, and then the functioning of the company, and then whatever's left over, we all decide together how we grow. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And do you find it challenging to get the vendors on board? Have we started that process, or is that
so we're at the
you have the
ground
money?
floor. I bought I put a down payment on a social app, paid $50,000 for it. I raised about 200,000, and then I put about 150 of my own thousands in 2014 and 17. And so we have an app that's basically a full awesome social media app, right? Just minus the blockchain marketplace, wallet, and ID. That's the development that we need to do, and that's going to cost about $600,000 to $800,000 and take about 8 to 9 months. So the app is ready to go. Technically, we just have to populate it with imagery and all of this and our own content, and $15,000, I think, to $28,000 to get it out in the Apple Store. It's like technically ready to go, minus our content and that payment, and then it's just a couple $100 a month. So we could, and they would manage it and like do the curating or whatever. Then we'd have a fully functional social media app that would rival MeWe, Parler. I mean, it does all the same stuff. It's better in my opinion. So we would be able to get into business just with that to start. And then doing that, the rest of the raise, that includes marketing, includes the development, and includes like some sales and development teams and stuff like that. What we are also capable of doing is, once that's in place, we are capable of paying our employees or anybody here who's interested in taking part in Earth credits, with the hope that they're going to be useful in the near future. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Gabriel.
Hey, everybody. So would the marketplace kind of work like Facebook, where you could search what kind of vendor you wanted? And
Yeah. Or you go to like, it would be like a mix between that and Apple Pay, right? So you go to, let's say, Whole Foods, and you want to pay with your Earth credit. You could either use your card, or you could go and enter into, like scan their thing and pay that way with your like Apple Pay, like you've got your wallet and your card full of Earth credits on your phone, essentially.
Sweet.
And part of the vision also is to get like medallions or rings or NFC chips that are essentially your key. The way that this is going to work in terms of securing ID and anonymization is that there's a real cool way of making it so that Phireon itself can't see any of your information that's bulkheaded. So like all of your medical data is on a blockchain, all of your transactional data is on a blockchain, all of your personal ID information is on a blockchain, and you have the key, and you're the only one who can get in there. And if, so long as it's next to your phone, it recognizes that you're the actual user. So if like the government comes to us and say, we want everything on so-and-so, it's like, well, here's so-and-so, you can go ask them yourself. We can't actually access their information.
Gotcha. Yeah. Thanks for the explanation. I got to get back to my family, but I will catch up with you, and I love it. Definitely on board. So
we'll do this again. Thanks, Gabriel.
Yeah, thanks.
Anybody else have anything they would like to add or say? It looks like Dan has something.
Hey, you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, so I've been thinking a lot about the community solar and agriculture. Leading up prior to Phireon, I've been like working on some plans to my coming to learn about Phireon. I mean, it seems like, through the solar work that I've done, I've seen like that there's usually developers, financiers, and I work for an EPC, like construction company, and that it seems like there's opportunity or possibility for, those different types of businesses that to develop these kind of like eco-village sort of hubs.
Yep.
And that, there's a great place to share ideas. And like prior to all of the, blockchain vendor stuff, there's a great opportunity for people to, start working on, building communities that, I guess just the whole like open source concept to launch an idea.
So we are going to be open source to a certain degree, not in the code at first, but we will be open source in terms of like building and concepts and ideas and how we build the governance system. We'll make decisions together. We'll vote. We took our first vote about when we're going to do this first meeting. So it's going to be very much involvement with everybody. And then as things develop, we'll build a social merit system where people can look and really recognize, like you'll have extra points in your categories for all of your solar work and things like that. So it'll be, in a sense, some of the best aspects of all the different social media networks and putting them together in an open source cooperative model. I want to make sure before we close that we're able to hit everybody who's got a question. Nat, did you have one? Dan, we'll come back to you after her, okay?
I was wondering, is there like a prime location you kind of wanted to start things in ideally, or was it kind of just like spreading to see how many people you can get across the planet to kind of do it individually in different places, or was it kind of one location first to see how it rolls out?
We have a number of locations and organizations that want to use the governance system and the token system. The Mushroom Farm in California is one. I don't know if you know Didi Taihutu. He's got the blockchain family or the Bitcoin family, and he's got a couple locations in around the world, Southeast Asia and Europe. And this is perfect for eco-villages, eco-communities like Dan was talking about. And as soon as we're up and running, this is something that they could implement. And for investors, they'll be getting a percentage of everybody's tokens that we create. So let's say they want to have their own private token at Didi's place. They create 10 million of them or whatever their economic threshold is. We get like 5% or 10%. So imagine like Ethereum, if they said everybody who creates an ERC20 token, we keep a percentage of those to start. So that brings a lot of value to our investors in terms of being able to have tokens from every different, basically like having gift cards at everybody's different economies.
Yeah, so it can kind of work alongside other projects that kind of already exist as well.
Exactly. And we'll build our own Phireon hubs. Like we'll probably use my land. We just went to a place today that's a great retreat center here in Delray Beach. Mm-hmm. So these are places, and we'll be able to allow people to trade in their land for Earth credits and, have lifelong leases for them and really, let's say they don't have a lot of capital to build them out, but they want to do something with it. We'll be in a position to be able to help them facilitate that.
Okay. And I've got one more question as well in terms of just kind of what do you think your biggest blocks, for want of a better word, would be to creating this? What do you think the biggest problems that you might enter into or that you might come up against? I know you've obviously thought about a lot for a long time, but I'm just wondering.
So the regulatorily nimble. So if we have to open up a Cayman Island branch to do the processing, and then we have to open up we'll have to open up a corporation in every nation wherever we have members. And those will become like the headquarters, and we'll kind of move around what each company does in that cooperative membership structure. That's going to be not just a challenge, but like actually kind of exciting because we'll be technically a global corporation at that point. The other challenge that I've had, we raised in 2017 when the market was at its height and everybody was excited, and just on my speaking tours and on the excitement of crypto going so well and that we'd be creating new tokens for clients, and frankly on our client list we raised $100,000. Right now the market's it's creeping back up, but fundraising is, and now I've had a couple people say that they would help us out with the startup so that we could get the crowdfunding, underway. And then really it becomes an issue for us to get the word out. And I'm starting to do more interviews. Bernard Gunther, somebody in the chat said that they were connected with the boys from Edge of Wonder. The more we can get that going, and the more that I can be out there speaking to people, I think we'll get a big kind of groundswell of support. The next step that we'd want to do once the app is actually built and the functionality of the marketplace is there, we're going to use part of our marketing budget to do like a tour, a musical tour, where to come to the event, which will have its own cultural sort of like a little bit of a vibe of Burning Man, but a little bit more noble, let's say, and it will have you have to use the app to purchase things inside. You know, if you want food or whatever, like you have to use Earth credit. So it's an onboarding mechanism to get people trained on how to use the app, how to be involved, how to make votes, this and that, and kind of do like a grassroots sort of that thing where it'll be fun for like a good period of time, and it'll feel like family, and it'll feel like, you know, any of those new kinds of like cultural movements that happen. You know, once it gets to a certain point, it stops having that same intimacy. So I'm looking forward to being able to build that intimacy in the very beginning. But funding has been the challenge mainly for me, because I don't like asking people for money, and it's been an interesting growth period for me to be like, to go from like trying to explain things to people to just being like, if you don't get it, then you really are missing out at this point. And I think that fundamental shift in my alignment has already changed a number of people's perspective, and they're wanting to bring their money now. So it's not like I have to go get it or ask. It's more like we have to have the vessel contained in such a good way that we can handle it when it comes in. Does that make sense?
All right, no, that makes perfect sense. And I said anything that I can do, part of my brand is personal responsibility and geeking out and kind of being organized. So anything I can do to help that align, then
nice.
I'm happy to.
I'd love that. Yeah, I think we'll have a chat soon and do an interview. Then I think as things progress here and we start, I'd like to interview everybody in the Phireon chat who wishes to get involved, so I can find out what everybody's skill sets are, and then we can start, you know, saying, hey, you'd be good at community outreach, or you'd be good at scheduling things, or whatever it might be. And, you know, I'll kind of put together a list as it grows. Oh, we're going to need somebody to do this, we're going to need somebody to do that, and see who steps up and does it. I don't know if you all have chatted with WK in the chat, but his name is William. It looks like Brian's back on. His name's William, and he is a brilliant dude and has been involved since the very early days when this was just an idea. And a lot of the ways that we operated were some of the very foundational elements of how we're going to build this into, you know, a voting and kind of taking part in this together and making sure we hear everybody's voice. And to that, I wanted to make sure Dan's voice got heard again, because I don't know if I fully answered your question, Dan. I was concerned that we were going to break through that 40-minute barrier on that. I don't know if I have to press unmute or not. No, it looks like you're there. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you know, I guess I'm just thinking of like other hopes I've had for like the decentralized effect with the internet is I've seen like Khan Academy and Brilliant and these other like educational platforms really like serve a need in society, like Wikipedia even, and just that having a social media site that's really geared towards building communities and empowering people, and just that like with YouTube you can just create content if there's a way to like catalog things on specific subjects that are sort of geared towards entrepreneurial activities, or like familiarizing yourself with how to use the app, but you know, even much more than that, on you know how to build this stuff. So so I mean,
so are you asking if there's going to be like structure where you can be like, hey, I'm looking for everything on entrepreneurialism, or I'm looking for everything on solar power, or, you know, setting up a community for solar power, and then being able to find those people that are providers of that service, let's say. Is that the question?
Yeah, I mean, on one hand, it could be like a network. I mean, I guess it's a question or an idea that it's a place to network people that have different skills, and to share like educational content for other people just like seeking advice on you know where to go with this or whatever resources they have available to them.
So interestingly, in the 40s, when television, and the 50s, when the television really started becoming a thing, a lot of the earliest programming was how to be a farmer, how to be a plumber, how to be like actual follow along a person who's doing that work. And what it did was give young people an idea of like what track they wanted to take in life. Like, you're interested in what it's like to be a mechanic, like follow along this show about this mechanic. This is what he's doing. Like, that was original programming. And that's a very similar track about how I would like to see things go in Phireon, is like, like all these people are coming out with their guru self-help kind of like, this is how I've become a life coach or all of this. Well, it would be really cool to have a television show about a mechanic and how he became a mechanic, how things work, so that kids can look and say like, I want to do that, or I don't want to do that, right? Farming, like permaculture, like all of these wonderful things, having courses that people can take, like Kajabi style in the app. And it's kind of like, there's this guy, Ty something or else, and Ty Lopez, and he does this whole like, let me teach you how to become a millionaire type thing. And like, you pay for a course, and it's just an online thing where you go and learn how to do online social media marketing. It's like, and whether it's a couple $100 or whatever, and then you take the first set of courses, you answer a bunch of questions, take the second set, answer a bunch of questions, yada, yada, yada. So you can do the same thing, and we can create like an educational system for young people, old people, anybody essentially, where they can self-direct, learn what they want to learn and apply those skills in the marketplace, and they get rated on how good they are. So you can look and do a search for solar installation, find 80 people and see their rating on how good they are, kind of like on Yelp, right? And you can tell whether they're good or not based upon the reviews and your own intuition and whatever. They can put up a video and say, this is what I do, and blah blah blah. So it creates a much more advanced Craigslist style marketplace where you can find everybody's that you need. If you need a massage therapist, if you need like holistic health and well-being, whatever, as long as you go through those training things and or demonstrate your value in the marketplace, and people have rated you, and kind of like on LinkedIn. But on LinkedIn, there's no like way to vet whether they really are good at it or not. It's just like their crew said that they are. And like, how do you know whether they just gamed it or not, So we'll have mechanisms in place to actually determine how good a person is based upon their reputation score and their skill sets. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it all facilitates. Yeah, I mean, I guess I was sort of focused on the educational side of things, but just the networking of businesses and individuals and rating, it all fits together.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody else have any questions? Because then I've got a question for you all. Go ahead, Kai.
Did you already think about the structure of the company? Like, will there be like a huge hierarchical system inside, like a CEO and the management circle and stuff like that? Or how is it like structured?
Very good question. Thank you. So how can I put this? In the United States, we have a president and they do their job and everybody thinks they're in charge. But really, the role of a CEO, the role of a president, the role of commander or whatever is really just janitor, okay? They're there to execute the will, ideally, in a really beautiful situation, they're there to execute the will of their employees, or the will of their, in the traditional kind of business structure, the will of their board, right? And that's all backwards and wonky. They're there to make their employees happy so that the employees work, so they're there to serve, essentially. And so the way I envision it is a council of 13, one of whom is like the supreme janitor, let's say. And their real role is just to make sure that everything's running smooth and that they're executing on the will of the people. So everybody who has a job in Phireon will have the ability to be rated by those whose lives they affect. So that being said, let's say the ultimate janitor, his or her, job influences everybody who's a member of Phireon. So everybody gets to vote and rate them like they would a product on Amazon. So long as their rating stays above the phi ratio of however many people they influence, then they are able to continue doing their job. They have a token that is issued to their personal wallet or their wallet that allows them access to parts of the app that they get to function in. Clearing transactions, taking out money and giving it to one of the members who decided to do a Kickstarter style proposal for a partitional or part of the monies to go towards a school. They're the ones who execute the functions of the will of the people. So long as they don't do anything untoward or shady and their rating stays good, their wallet, their coin, their access token allows them to continue functioning in the app. Soon as that access token disappears because their rating goes below a certain amount, smart contract is executed and they don't have that token any longer and they can't function in their job. So it's ultimate accountability. Now, that being said, if you're going to downgrade somebody and rate them lower, what ends up happening is it costs you. So you can't just be feeling shitty one day and decide, hey, I want to get rid of this guy. You actually have to have good reason, otherwise it costs you against your merit score. Now, so that's a sort of long answer for your question is like, what's the governance structure? There is a council, like management team, who each one of them has a representative role handling or representing a certain function or group of people in the Phireon ecosystem. That's all going to be explained further as we go on with this, because I think it's too early to get into the granular details of all of it. Right now, I kind of want to figure out, how are we going to get more people involved? How are we going to parse this down into a simple explanation? I tried to do that with the video. Did you guys ever see the explainer video on Phireon.com?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it too complex? I kind of feel like it needs to be simpler. What do you all think?
No, I guess it ties into this whole merit system you explained there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But it's like, how do you take a bunch of information and give it to people without them being like, that's too much information, you know?
Right. Got it. Thank you.
You mentioned regenerative agriculture and renewable energy, and that checks a lot of boxes for me. And and then the eco village concept, and I don't know. Yeah, I think you said it all pretty well.
Yeah, I kind of want to do something maybe like a little simpler, like spend your money like you would, then we all decide how we I don't even know the messaging right now, but like it really needs to just be even more simple, unfortunately, somehow. But I'll be kind of working on things on that end, and I'll share them with you guys, because like at this point I kind of feel like we are cohesive and we're going to be able to bounce ideas off of each other, and that's where the energy really happens. Because like I'll say some things and it'll make you go off and do your thing during your day, but something will happen that you wouldn't have thought of had you not heard what I had said, and vice versa. And like, we'll be able to bounce energy back and forth, and kind of like, it'll have its own life force, you know? And so, really, I'm like, how do we get more people engaged? I know I have to go and do more interviews and kind of tell this story more, kind of craft the question, or I'm sorry, craft the story so that it's more simple to understand for the general public, and not like a complex explainer video that makes more questions than answers. So I'd love some feedback on how you see that we could do this better, how I could show up better, anything like that.
As far as recruiting more people, like, you obviously you're very well acquainted with John Bush.
Yeah.
Have you considered sort of spinning these ideas into his Freedom Cell idea? I'm part of the Freedom Cell. I have one here, and I think it's a lot of the principles are very similar.
Yes, 100%. And I'm like, what I could see happening is, I don't know if there's a Freedom Cell app or if it's just like a forum or something.
There's just a website, but there's a lot of room for improvement. So the app would be great.
Right. So I'm kind of like hoping that we get that we get the app out onto the market, and that he brings the Freedom Cells into Phireon, where we can kind of like, give it a home essentially, and like he can have Freedom Cell coins, or however he wants to structure that it'll kind of be like guilds. I don't know if you're familiar with the guilds term or the guilds concept, but all of the artists, it's where the Freemasons came from. All the builders would get together and be like, how do we do this better and protect ourselves and be as a one force, right? So guilds were like, okay, the Freedom Cell Guild or the Freedom Cell Coalition or the Freedom Cell membership. It's like you're part of different groups, just like on Facebook groups, right? You have your Facebook account, but then there are all the different groups in there. So that's kind of how I can see things unroll there.
Yeah, it's a Freedom Cell, so I think it could be up to the people who are members of the Freedom Cell,
right,
to make that transition and make use of the Phireon app.
Yeah, I love John, and we're so ideologically aligned on so many things. Like I see it as a natural, like, togetherness. We'll figure out a way to make it work together. I'm confident of that.
I think the buyers club idea and like co-ops, like member owned, it just that is pretty compelling. Like a decentralized internet based.
Yep.
And then the deeper you look into it with like the governance and all of that, it just gets cooler and cooler. But I think just that is pretty compelling.
Yeah, thank you. I love hearing those birds in the background, by the way, John. So I think with the buyers club, I mean, there's just so much value there. The idea is to make it 1 day's wages in whatever country you're in is the membership. Then you get your membership token, you're a part owner, and that kind of levels the playing field globally. Because like a day's wages in the United States is like what, like $85 to $100 or something like that. All right, Letty, thank you so much. Thanks for being here. And then, like, if you're in India, I don't know what the day's wages are there now, but it allows everybody across the globe to get involved and really start taking place in the global marketplace in a clear, concise way that they're all members of something. And ideally, wanting to take place and take part in this kind of a cooperative structure of governance and self-governance and self-determination will increase people's general honor and integrity, especially if part of it is saying the pledge or committing to the pledge or whatever. Like if we want Adidas to be marketing to us, we all as a population have to agree that hey, we like Adidas, or no, you know what I'm saying? Like if we want the values to be a certain uplifting positivity and all of this, we have to be discerning in the early days who we let in, how we decide to make decisions, and how that sets the culture for everybody else who comes in and may or may not be interested in that or consider that. But we get to a certain level of sophistication, organization, and cultural development where then to be a part of it, you have to kind of grow up a little bit. So that we can actually incentivize humanity in the right direction rather than just being like, this is a free form whatever, and then we end up with a totally destroyed planet. I think if we step up and we say, we want a planet that is this way, that is healthy, it's balanced, no more war, then we live by that. And then anybody, and we have to be discerning again who we're letting in the beginning so that those people come with us. We get a strong enough of base of support, strong enough economic horsepower, so to speak, and then everybody's going to want to come to our party. And then we get to dictate the terms, just like Burning Man has these cultural values. It's like, well, here are our cultural values. If we want to take part in the global economy, then, step up.
I found out about Phireon through Facebook. There's these different groups that are about the resource-based economy, RBE, and Ubuntu, the Venus Project.
Yeah.
There's a group called Copiosis too.
Very cool. I interviewed years ago Jacques Fresco from the Venus Project, and that was I have the longest interview with him on the internet, and it was 4 hours or something. It was 16 episodes. Anyway, his ideologies and his ideas helped form a large part of how Phireon is developed and where we're going to go and ultimately what comes 1,000 years or 500 years from now. But we're not ready there yet to say we don't need money. It's no, we need structurally sound, well-architected money that serves a purpose that allows us to develop the projects and the culture that we want. Because right now, sovereignty is determined essentially by what currency you use, as unpleasant as that is. But if we design the currency in such a way that's designed to free us down the road, I think that it's a step in the right direction. So yeah, 100% about resource-based economies. In fact, the economic model of the Phireon ecosystem and the currency is based on some of the as unpleasant as this is, one of the things Hitler did well was get his country off the ground economically before all of the terrible things started taking place. And what he did is he made so we're going to build this project and it's going to be valued at this much, and so we're going to print that much money to build that project and pay all the workers in that. And that note that they gave them was only redeemable by it was backed by the Weimar Republic, or the currency that they had. So you had a public currency and a private currency, and you were able to build projects based upon their value, and then you created a credit towards the value of that project, and then that's what issued the currency, or the amount of currency, and that's what they paid everybody in. And they set up economic systems whereby those people were able to trade that company's script for real world products. So that's kind of like a little bit of how we're going to develop this, and getting the vendors on board with their various products. They get the value of like not having to pay 4.75% or whatever the going rate is. They actually get to keep more money. So if they're doing $1 million in transactions a month, now they're going to be doing 1,100,000, so they're actually keeping more money. So that's going to be really appealing to the vendors to be onboarded, and they don't have to use a new POS system or anything. So and then we're able to remit a percentage of that transaction back to the person who opened up that account. Once you're trained in Phireon, and once you become an associate and can represent the company, then you can go and get Starbucks as a vendor, and then you're getting like a fraction of a percent on every transaction that comes through there. You become rich, right? So one of the jobs that people are going to have is to go and grow the network. So it grows itself organically, and we get to keep a strong cash position by paying people in their Earth credits as it's building. Andre, you got a question?
Yeah, let me just ask you one quick question on I think I read somewhere that you stated when we come to consensus, there'll be a vote that happens, and I know this is down the road here, but when the vote happens, only the people who are have passed a certain litmus test or watched certain videos and can prove their competence are allowed to vote, something like that. And I was just wondering, like the underlying philosophical principles of Phireon. I think they're all ethical and everything, but where do those like actually come from, and like the material that they'd view in order to prove competence? Who would decide if that's appropriate material? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is the standard for that?
Great question. So let's say you, Andre, want to ask Phireon population membership and the company itself to give you $100,000 to start a community garden, right? So you come up with the video to pitch everybody on, right? And they get to watch that video. They have to answer the questions that you come up with to make sure that they understand what the implications are, how much money is going to be spent, how much money is going to be used, what it's going to be used for, da-da-da-da-da. And then once they've passed your litmus test as the promoter of that specific project, then they get their token. That disappears after a few days so that they have only a few days to vote. Now, for other large things like the corporate things, right? Like for something, let's say like the currency valuation, we want to buy a bunch of different commodities and currencies. Whoever the team is that's putting that together, essentially, who knows what the F they're talking about and promoting that, they're the ones. So basically, if you have a proposal or anybody in the company has a proposal, you come up with the litmus test of how somebody, whether they know or not the subject matter enough to vote on it. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay, good. And now I can see, and I don't know this for a fact because I'm not trying to control how this gets built. What I want to do is create the framework that everybody gets to build on top of as creative individuals. But let's say that I could see a committee or a group that people promote or say, we want to vote them in as specific individuals to oversee things or to, okay, here's a great example. A committee that is made up of successful entrepreneurs who can look at a business plan that somebody proposes and say, hey, this should or shouldn't go to vote because you don't have this, or have you thought about this? Kind of like another layer of associates who are more well-trained, who have a proven track record of making hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, who know what they're talking about, like a Shark Tank kind of team, right? Where, and they get voted on by the public or the members to say, we think that they're a good team to vet the projects before we end up voting on it. You know what I mean? So there's like a whole layer of complexity that can start being built organically to help make things more efficient and more non-gamifiable, if that makes sense. So there's like actual vetting for value and for competence and stuff like that when it comes to proposing projects. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Now I'm noticing that we're 10 minutes past. We're kind of getting to the hour. I want to make sure everybody feels complete, that they feel heard, that they've got to contribute what they want to contribute or ask what they've wanted to ask, and then maybe ask what do you guys think should be the next step? Let me ask you a question.
So we're gonna have you mentioned individual interviews, or we kind of go through our skills and what we can provide. I think you mentioned that. That seems like a great next step.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I know that there were a couple people who wanted to either interview me. Nat was one. There was a fella, I think Simon, who said that he had connections with some really great people to get interviews by. And then some other those. I'll follow up with all of them. And I think what I'll do is go through the list of all of the members in Phireon and start kicking out people who were there in the beginning or may not be interested now, but sending them a personalized message saying, hey, if you want to interview me, I'll set up a Calendly or something, and we'll go the next week, 2 weeks, and I'll put aside, a couple hours each workday just to do like 15, 20 minute, 30 minute calls with anybody and everybody who would like to, and sort of get an idea of everybody energetically, skill wise, and then kind of develop from there. Cool.
Sounds good.
I guess it makes sense, like trying to attract more followers to the Telegram or to your other social media platforms like Facebook.
That's the idea. Yeah,
Parlay.
videos, interviews, and baseline. That's kind of why I wanted to do baseline. It was like fun. It's kind of like slightly informative, but it's also for me, it's more about carrying that signal of what could potentially be a golden age in humankind in the next 10 years, 20 years here that we start, and just carrying that frequency and seeing who shows up, right? And like the news is important, but like it's easy to get bogged down in a lot of stuff. So I'm trying to keep the hawk's eye 40,000 view perspective for the future. And we're going to run out of 10 minutes again. So and then start just putting the light out there. And I'm going to cut up some of this interview and put it into snippets and start blasting that out as well. So hopefully we just start getting more people engaged. And I think that we're having great conversations in the chat, and it's blowing my mind, and I'm just so grateful. So we'll keep that going, and then do more of these. I think we'll do another one this week and see who shows up to that one, and kind of run through the same thing, and just keep building momentum. So if nobody has any last words, I'm going to wrap this up and say thank you so very much. It's really an honor to be here, and that you guys are even interested in hearing about this and wanting to be a part of it. It means that there's something good going on, and that we have not just a responsibility, but the ability and fun mandate to build something that could really change humanity for many, many generations in a good way. Whether we succeed or not, it's important to me that we do it, because that declares to the universe that this is who we are and what we are about. And if we can't find place in this world for it, then the next one that we will go to will be more of a world that is balanced and sane and beautiful. So with that, I'm Xavier Hawk. This is Phireon, and thank you guys so very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Cheers.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Phireon, the choice is yours.